Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought we would do a nice little get ready with me with a couple of things that are first impressions and some things that are oldies but goodies, and that's about it. So let's get started. Alright, so first I'm going to try this Bare Minerals Prime Time. It's the Bare Minerals Primer, and it is in light. You can get it in like light, medium, and dark. It's just a tinted primer. It says it's to perfect, protect, and prime at the same time. Apply a thin, even layer of this multitasking formula all over the face and allow it to dry. So it sounds like we're gonna have to let this sit. Wear alone or under foundation. So this is an SPF of 30, and they call it a BB primer cream. So it does have a little bit of a tint to it, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. It's just kind of this, I don't know, like a drippy kind of texture. So we'll just put this all over the face. It does feel very like, I hate to say oily or greasy, but it does feel very moisturizing. Let's put it that way. Alright, so it's supposed to help even out skin tone, blur imperfections, and then also it has the SPF in it, which I like the fact that it has the SPF in it. It does feel very moisturizing. It does feel very slippy, and it's not drying down quickly either. So I can tell why they say to allow it some time to dry. As far as like blurring pores or helping with pores, definitely not as much as I would like, but it does feel, yeah, it does feel really good on the skin. It feels very, because I do have some dry patches, on my skin, so it feels very, like, it feels very good on those dry areas of my skin that I have. Especially, I have some like here. I do feel like it helped to even out my skin tone a little bit. Huh. Well, the big test will be to see how foundation does on top of it. I'm a little curious because it does feel very oily, and sometimes with oily primers, foundations don't play well together. It causes a lot of breakup, some separation to happen. So I am curious to see how foundation will lay on this primer, but I mean, for the most part, it doesn't look too bad. Actually did fill in my pores just a little bit, not as much as like my Winky Lux or my Pores No More or my all-time favorite, the No Poreblem. But I mean, it didn't do a bad job. It definitely minimized them. It helped even out my skin tone just a little bit, and it smoothed some things out. So I mean, it's okay. It's not a bad primer, but you know, not my favorite. So we're going to give this a little bit of time to dry down, because I can tell it's very, yeah, we're going to have to give it some time to really sink into the skin. So we'll do that, and then we'll be back with foundation application. So from a primer perspective, I'm really not mad at it, guys. Like, I really do feel like, I mean, I don't know, what do you think? I feel like it balanced out my skin tone fairly well. Not bad. It's not very shiny, so it is kind of controlling, I think, you know, the oil production as well. I wouldn't say it's quite matte, because, you know, you can still have the glow kind of coming through, but I mean, overall, I think I was more impressed with not so much like the pore filling aspects, but the evening out of my skin tone aspect, that little tint that's in there. I actually think I like it, so the test will be how the products do on top of it, right? Alright, so the next step is going to be these bad boys underneath here. I have awful dark circles those need to be covered up. I really like the way this primer feels. It's actually still a little tacky, and I kind of like that because it will definitely help the foundation adhere to my skin, but we'll have to see how well it does. Our first step is the brightener. So I usually use the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, the Illumination, or this is another really good one that I love, and that's the Tarte CC Under Eye Corrector. This is a really good one in the light medium shade. It's very, very thick, so you have to work in very small amounts and warm it up on the back of your hand. This is a really good corrector. I also lately have been a fan of the Flower Beauty Under Eye Brightener. This I really, really like as well. If you guys watched a previous video, you saw me discussing this. And then, of course, one of my all-time favorites is the regular Bye Bye Under Eye that just comes in a regular pot. Now, this one doesn't have, like, the illuminating aspect to it. It's just more brightening without, like, the sparkles. My last go-to that I always use is the Erase Paste. Now, they have repackaged this lately, and they've been calling it like this, the Boying Concealer, Brightening Concealer, but these are the same thing. It's the same formula, just repackaged. So now if you go to buy this, it looks like this. So I actually think we're gonna start with this today. This is like an oldie but goodie kind of favorite of mine. So the way that I use this, because it's so thick, a lot of people have a hard time with it. So the way that I actually use it is I just get a little bit out, and I mean just like a little tiny bit. Goes a really, really long way with this stuff. So I just always get a little tiny bit on the end of my brush, and then I always warm the formula up on the back of my hand. And it takes it from that really kind of thick texture, and it actually shears it out very nicely and makes it more of like a warm kind of slippy texture. Because this has like the peach underneath it, it does really good for me as far as my dark circles go. And I just put a little brush in here, get the end of it soaked with it, and I just start in the tear trough where most of my discoloration is. And I will use this brush just to get placement down. Alright, so that just helps get a little bit of the darkness away. Now we're actually going to go in and really try and conceal those tear troughs. And for that, I use the IT Cosmetics, just the regular Bye Bye Under Eye. And then I just let that sit, and we're going to move on to foundation. So today, again, we're going to try the YSL All Hours Foundation. And give it a shake. I've heard a lot of good things about this foundation, guys, so I'm curious to see how this is going to work. Just going to put a pump on my hand. Kind of looks like this. It's a little runny, but it's actually more of a thick consistency than I thought it was going to be. And we're going to do this side with a brush, and then we'll do this side with a sponge, and we'll see how it works. Start with a little pat here. And we're going to reach for my makeup brush, just a regular buffing brush. So it blends out quite nicely. Coverage is okay. I don't know, what do you think, guys? I'm gonna do this side over here. And for this side, we are going to use a damp sponge. Use the one, my favorite one right now is this Flower Beauty sponge. And I've been reaching for this, guys, before I reach for my beauty blender. This is like my favorite blending sponge right now. It's amazing. So this is definitely a different finish, I think. Not really sure what side I like best at this point. Still just working off that one pump. Haven't really had to use anything more. I don't know, guys. I think I might actually prefer the brush with this particular foundation. Let's try the brush here. Especially on the nose area, if you have large pores, it's really good to use a brush because you got to really kind of get all directions and really work the product in. It's not setting so fast like a lot of foundations set so fast, especially when it's matte and it claims to be full coverage, which this claims to be 24-hour wear, matte, full coverage, and oil free. So usually those get really stiff really fast, and they're kind of hard to work with. And with this, it doesn't really do that, and it actually gives you a little bit of playtime, which I actually really like. Yeah, so it gives you time to blend it in really well. And doesn't look like it gets streaky with the brush. Looks like it actually applies really good so far. So I do have a couple of spots that are still like peeking through, as you can see. So I'm gonna try another layer just to see if we can get that covered up a little bit. I think we'll do a sponge for the second layer. And maybe not spread it around so much, and we'll see how that does. I think it's buildable. Alright guys, so I used about a pump and a half for the whole face, and I actually have a little bit left over, so I could have probably gotten away with the pump. But I did, when I went in for my second layer, I just used a little bit more. And no. So I think as far as the full coverage claim goes, I mean, it's not the most full coverage that I've ever seen. I definitely have foundations that are a little bit more full coverage than this. So, but it is, I would classify it in the medium to full coverage area or category. So yeah. As far as matte goes, I've definitely seen foundations that are much more matte than this. I would put this in the demi-matte category because it still does have a little bit of kind of glow coming through. Yeah, especially like on the tip of my nose, you know, the chin. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this some time to actually set. And then we'll take a look at it once it's had a little bit of time to settle in. But so far, I mean, it's not horrible. I'm not like mad at it. It's not a complete disaster. But yeah, as far as like the matte claims, it's almost kind of luminous, you know? No, guys. I don't know about the matte part, but we'll see. Alright, so to make this concealer eye area a little more like cohesive, so like, you know, blend it in just a little bit more, we're going to do some of the Flower Beauty concealer. Just see if we can get a little bit of kind of melding going on here. Alright, and I usually like to just brighten across the bridge of my nose a little bit. And just down. I also like to hit these areas. Just to give us a little bit of some brightness. And again, that's the Flower Beauty brightener. I really like the brightness that it brings. It's really pretty. Alright guys, so now that we've gotten our base down, let's set this bad boy. And I'm going to go in with one of my favorites right now, which is the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Setting Powder. Guys, this stuff is amazing. I love it. So I always just get a little tiny bit, and then I get a powder brush, and just press it in. And instead of like sweeping motions, I like to use just pressing motions so that it actually presses it into the skin and it doesn't shift around the makeup and the work that you've done. So I do tend to press the powder actually into the skin. And I'll actually go back behind this and press it in a little bit more with a beauty blender. With the under eyes, it is a little trickier because you want to make sure you don't have any creasing going on with your foundation before you set it. So I always look first before I do my powder, just to make sure that I don't set it with creases under there. And I never use a lot of powder under my under eye because it just dries it out and makes it look worse. When you have a lot of texture under your eye like I do, more powder is not a good thing. Alright guys, so now that we have set everything, the next thing that I do is my eyebrows. So I recently have really fallen in love with this LA Girl eyebrow pencil, and it's called LA Girl Shady Slim Brow Pencil. And I really like this. Not only do I like the pencil itself, but I love the color, and it's by LA Girl, so I think this was like $2. It lasts throughout the course of the day. I love this super, super skinny pencil on the tip. It looks like this. Really, really tiny. But you can get really precise with your lines with this. And I just love it. I think it's fantastic. And another hint, guys, as you work, if you find that you rest your hand on your face a lot, get a puff or some kind of velour puff. This is a Laura Mercier puff, but you know, everybody has them, so, and they're not very expensive, but you can get it. So while you work on your face, if you have to rest your hand, you're not actually putting your hand on your actual face. And it's nice because it just helps to not transfer makeup, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just gonna fill it in. And this is like an everyday kind of look, guys, so we're not gonna do any kind of dramatic brow. We're just going to even it out a little bit. And like I said, guys, this is an everyday look, so we're not going to worry about getting too perfect with it. We just want to do enough so that we're kind of filling in the gaps and just making it look nice and uniformed. And that is it. We're not going to do any of the concealer around our eyebrows or carving them out or doing any of that. Just filling it in and moving on. Alright guys, so next we are going to actually prime the lids. Now, my lids tend to be a little oily throughout the course of my day, and especially right in here, I will get oily eyelids and color will disappear from these two areas. So there are a couple of different things that I like to use to actually prime my eyelids that control oil throughout the course of the day. One of them is the Pro Longwear Paint Pot by MAC, and I use the color Painterly. So I use this quite often. Another one that I use quite often is the Tarte Shape Tape. This is very difficult for me to work with under my eyes because it is so drying. I really have to take my time if I'm going to use this as an under eye concealer. For an everyday look, this is just a little too strong for me. I use this on nights where I have an event or some sort of long-lasting thing where I really need a lot of glam and I need really hardcore staying power, and I really have to work with this very carefully if I use it in my under eye area. For a eyelid primer, it's fantastic because it does control the oil production on my eyelids, and it also evens out any kind of discoloration that I have up there, in addition to the staying power and it being a nice matte concealer. It really does stay there throughout the course of my day as well. So as an eyelid primer, this stuff works really, really good. That's what we're going to use tonight. And this is in the shade Light Medium Honey. And I usually just take a brush first and brush it all over the areas that I need it to be. And then I'll go in with my finger because it does need to be warmed up quite a bit for it to be a little more flexible, and just pat it out. Like so. And because this stuff is so pigmented, it does a really good job of hiding any discoloration that you have on the lid. Really does make a good blank canvas for you to apply your eyeshadow. You do have to kind of work quickly with this stuff because it does dry down rather quickly. Alright, my favorite translucent setting powder to use on the eyelid is the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder for under eyes, because it has a little bit of a luminescence to it. So I like to use that on the eyelids just to set that concealer with. You want to go ahead and set it before it gets those creases going too. And you see it's got a little bit of that brightening properties to it, so it's nice. It's very finely milled as well. This is okay as an under eye setting powder as well. But I do find that I like the Etheralist setting powder from Too Faced a little bit better under my eyes, because this Laura Mercier under eye setting powder, as you can see, has a little bit of a white cast to it. And in photos, your under eyes look very white if you use this to set your under eye with. So I tend to avoid it a little bit when it comes to the under eye area, unless I know I'm not going to be videoing or I'm not going to be using any kind of flash photography. Then, you know, it does fairly well. So I always go back in and I always get the powder and all that accumulation of product off my lashes. Alright guys, so we're going to do the eyes next. I'm going to do just a really natural, kind of everyday look on the eyes. I'm going to be using the Laura Lee Los Angeles palette because it is my favorite palette. I reach for that bad boy every single day. And I'm also going to take some colors from the Sephora Pro palette. For those of you that don't know, this is the Sephora Pro palette. It is absolutely amazing. The formula of these colors is absolutely amazing. Everything about this palette is amazing. So I'll be taking some colors from that as well. And I'm going to zoom you guys in just so you can actually see what I'm doing here in the eye area. So let's get you zoomed in. Hopefully that'll focus. All right. And it's a little hard to talk and do this at the same time, so we're going to do a voiceover here. So I'm just taking a really light bone color, and I'm just going to put that all over both eyes. It just gives a nice base for blending purposes. So this is just a white bone color from the Lauralee Cat's Pajamas. Then I'm going to take a really big fluffy brush and just put the lightest brown color from the Lauralee palette in just to warm up that crease a little bit. You just want to warm it up. You can pick any really light brown transition shade just to add a little bit of depth in that crease. Now we're going to take the darker burnt orange color from the Lauralee palette, and we're going to concentrate that color on the outer corner of the eye. I like to do smaller circles until I get most of the product off my brush, and then I will pull it through the crease. But in the beginning, you really want to concentrate the majority of that pigment on the outside of the eye, and then you can pull it through. And this is a Hakihodo J5533, and I honestly feel like every girl should have this brush. It's amazing when it comes to blending. But again, concentrate the majority of the pigment on the outside, and then you can drag it through the crease when you've gotten most of the product off of your brush. Then I just take that big fluffy brush again and just go over top of everything, just blending it in, just to make sure everything's nice and blended. You can always go in, and now I'm taking like a darker burgundy and just touching it to the outside corner. I like a little bit of that burgundy kind of touch in there, just so it's not so orange. I just like the look of it a little bit better than just having that burnt orange out there. And then I take a really light brown matte from the Sephora Pro palette and put it right here. Now a lot of people can put shimmer right here. Shimmer for me shows up all of those lovely wrinkles I have on my eyelids, and it does tend to accentuate texture unless it's the right shimmer. So for an everyday look, I like to just go with a bright matte color. Now I will put a little bit of shimmer up here just for a little bit of highlight, and this is from the Sephora Warm Pro palette as well. And then that big fluffy brush again, just kind of going over everything, making sure it's all blended in and everything looks nice. Under the eye, go in with that warm color that we first laid down in the crease just to warm it up. You want to go in with that first, then go in with the darker color, and you want to concentrate that darker kind of burnt orange color on just the outside of the lashes. And I just do this in lieu of eyeliner, especially for an everyday look when you're just looking to get done and get out. You know, I just brush it on underneath there just to kind of tie the whole thing together. And while we're here, we'll go ahead and do the lashes as well. Typically the lashes are the very, very last thing that I do. Simply because you have bronzing to do, you have contour cheeks to do, and sometimes you can get product that lays on your lashes after you've put mascara on. So you really want this to be the very last step, but I've already got you zoomed in, so we'll go ahead and do it now. First layer is the waterproof L'Oreal Voluminous Paradise Mascara. I just like putting a waterproof down first because it really holds the curl, and then after that we will go in with the Tarte Lights Camera Flashes. Alright, so I pulled you guys kind of back out so that we can move on to like bronzing and blush and highlight. Now for an everyday look, I wouldn't use eyeliner or really go in for like a cut contour or anything kind of crazy like that. I would just warm up a little bit with a good bronzer, and then I'll put on some blush and maybe a little bit of highlight. So that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to do the Flower Beauty trio. I actually have really come to love this trio. The Flower Beauty, guys, really has some products that have shocked me. And there is something going on. There's been a lot of ambulances going by, and I hope everyone is okay, because it has really been a lot. Alright, so we're just going to start by using the bronzer just to warm up the cheek area and right here in the temples. You hear that? And as you can see, it just really warms up the face really nicely. It's a great bronzer, and I love the tone. Alright guys, and then next we're going to go in with my favorite blush, which is the Flower Beauty Flower Pots blush. This is in the color Sweet Pea, and it's really a beautiful blush. If you guys have not seen my makeup at Walmart video, go back and watch it. Flower Beauty really has some spectacular products, and this is one of them. I just love this blush. It's a very natural wash of color, and it's very pretty, and I love it. Alright, after we put on our blush, I do like to just kind of buff it over with that bronzer just to make sure it's nice and blended in. And then we get to go in with highlighter, which is probably my favorite product. I use the Balm Mary Luminizer because specifically this product, because I can go light on the days where it's just an everyday look and I want a little bit of a sparkle, or I can go really heavy on the days where I want like a lot of glam. So we're just gonna do a very light today because we're doing an everyday look. So we're just gonna do a nice light swath right through here. And as you can see, it just gives a really pretty glow to the cheek area. Nothing too crazy or overdone. Just really pretty. And then I'll take that same blush brush and just kind of stipple over just to let it blend in so it doesn't really stand out, and make it nice and blended. Then I also love the way that it will make a lip look a little bigger, so I do like to brush it right across the top of my Cupid's bow and the top of my lips. And it just kind of gives your lips this bigger than they are kind of look. And I always put a little bit on the bridge of my nose. I'm not a fan of like the dot right there. I do like it on the bridge though, because it does kind of open this area up a little bit. And I think that's a lot more natural for like an everyday look. Next, I'm going to go in with an Anastasia Beverly Hills lippy, and this is in the color Pure Hollywood. It's just a pretty nude that'll be good for like an everyday kind of look. Alright guys, so this is the final look. This is just, you know, an everyday look for me. Very simple, very easy, and I love most of the products so far. The foundation, the YSL foundation, and the primer seem to be holding up well. I'll put an update down in the description bar below just to let you guys know how it lasted throughout the course of the day. But listen, thanks so much for hanging out with me during this Get Ready With Me. I really, really appreciate it. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, welcome to the family, and thanks for stopping by. Again, guys, I hope you have a really good rest of your weekend. Mwah.